It's 21 degrees in Jacksonville. It's 8 in Bolton, 6 in Kildare. This is Teal Talk, the official Jacksonville Jaguars UK and Ireland podcast, presented by Gallagher. I'm Jay Lawrence. As far as I'm aware, still no relation. He's Kee Ramsorrun. Hello, Kee.
Hello, Jay. Why do you say as far as you know? What do you think the chances are?
I don't know. There might be some, there might be some sort of news, that we are related. I don't know. JP Shadrick is here. Hello, JP.
I am not related, but it's nice to be with you guys. That's a
definitely not related. The Jags have a new head coach. Welcome to Duval, Liam Coen. Loads to get through today, unsurprisingly. This is probably the busiest episode that we've ever had, actually. We're going to hear from the head coach's first press conference a bit later on in the podcast. We'll update the rest of the news out of Jacksonville and the Jags UK HQ too. But of course, we'll start with Coach Coen. All right, just bear with me, you two, okay? So we'll get to you in a second, but I feel like we just need to go through the last few weeks. This month, in a nutshell, the Jaguars fired head coach Peterson, kept on GM Trent Baalke, interviewed prospective head coaches. Liam Coen was in the frame. Looked like though he was going to be staying in Tampa. Jags then parted ways with Baalke. Coen signs. Tampa's upset. Jags happy. Trevor Lawrence happy as he's got a young offensive-minded head coach. Jags now looking for a new GM. Tony Baselli's going to be helping that. And as no Teal Talk goes by without Brian Thomas Jr. Love, he is in the Pro Bowl, as he should be all along. I think we can agree with that. And nominated for Rookie of the Year. JP, have I missed anything?
I think you covered it all. I mean, that's a lot to get through there. It was a wild 48 hours. I'll give you that, because the news came down that Liam Coen had backed out of, or taken his name out of the running for the Jaguars head coaching job, and was going to take a lucrative number down in Tampa to stay as the offensive coordinator. And it wasn't long after that the word came on, okay, the Jags have parted ways with Trent Baalke. And then it wasn't long after that the tea leaves started coming together that, hey, this thing's still open, and Liam Coen's still interested in coming, at least talking to the Jaguars again. So that all happened within a day, and the next day here he is as the head coach. And it's a quick turn, but you know what? You might only get one opportunity as a head coach and to go through this process, right? I mean, if things all of a sudden went sour in Tampa Bay, for example, in the next year or two, offensively, and for whatever, in or out of his control, like he might not be in the mix a lot of places again. So this was the time to strike while the iron was hot, at least for Liam Coen. And from the outside looking in, we'll hear from him a little bit later, of course. But you have to go do it. It's a head coaching gig in the NFL. It's in the same state you're in. It's got a quarterback. They've got some players on this roster. There are some holes. So for Liam Coen, a 39-year-old guy up and coming in the league, it's a good place to really set down some roots.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, so we don't need to worry about how they're feeling about anything. But from a Jags perspective, from a Jags fans perspective, JP, as well, I mean, I'm coming out of it feeling quite pleased, because it feels like this is, and in fact, Shad Khan said a few weeks ago that one of the things that he was most disappointed with was how predictable the Jags were. And I mean, it just feels like he's gone out and got somebody that looks tailor-made to be able to change that.
You know what helps predictability, though, and unpredictability, is a running game. And that's the Jaguars didn't have. So you can be a whole lot more unpredictable when you have balance and they don't know what you're going to do. So there's some of that goes with it too. And just the way, yes, that the Tampa Bay offense improved year over year. He came in last year, and it was a group that was like 23rd in the league in yardage per game in 2023 and didn't score the ball a lot, like 20th in the league. Well, this year they finished top 5 in both rushing and passing, the only team in the league to do that. And, it was his first year actually calling plays full-time in the NFL. When he was the OC at L.A. with the Rams, Sean McVay's calling the plays. He's kind of just crafting it up. So that's huge for the way he can turn some things around. Curious to see what he does with the personnel he has and what his mindset is moving forward for, the needs moving ahead. We've talked a lot about, up the middle on defense, on the offensive line, big people, all these things. Does he have that same mindset? I think that'll be a big thing to hear in the press conference But he's a guy that came up through that tree. That's the hot tree right now, the McVay tree. There are now 4 head coaches in the league that worked under Sean McVay. So it's kind of how it goes sometimes. You get a hot head coach in McVay who's won a Super Bowl, and everybody wants a piece of that, right? And the Jaguars have a piece of that now, and let's see if he can kind of create his own tree. That's the next step moving ahead for Liam Coen.
JP, TL's, what's it, 5th season going to be next season? Seeing what Liam Coen did with Baker Mayfield last season, do you feel like this is a good fit and potentially some course correction is going to happen next season?
I think that had to be a big piece of the interview process, right? I mean, if not the first question, but I'd say the top 3 questions.
Right.
I'm not in the process, clearly, but if you're paying the quarterback $50 million a year, that's going to be high on the priority list of what do you think about him? How do you get him better? And I'm sure he had all the right answers, it sounds like. So, but we'll see. I mean, you got to get in the room and work together. You can hear about each other and watch Bucks games all you want, but it's a personality thing too, because you're in the room with this guy for 12 hours and you got to figure out an offense that works best around Trevor Lawrence. And I think that's probably what he'll do. It's not going to be just a plug and play offense. Okay, what is Trevor like? What does he do well? And a lot of people say this, but it's really hard to execute that and build the offense around what Trevor is comfortable with and does best, and then get him better in those places where he's lacked a little bit. So I think Liam's got the ability to go do that. We'll go see if he can go do it.
Let's just go through that 48 hours then, JP, because, a lot happened in that 48 hours. Probably one of the more dramatic things in any head coaching search that you can think of for any team recently, to be honest with you. Take us through that and take us, through what, Shad Khan would have been thinking at that moment or might have been thinking.
Like, wait a minute. What? Why is another guy backing out? Like, I bet that's what he was thinking, right? Johnson goes to the Bears, and then was he? Would he have come here? Who knows, right? I don't know. All the things you.
It's almost redundant, isn't it? Yeah,
it doesn't matter anymore, right? But Cohen interviewed and then took his name out. So okay, that's not trending the right way. You just don't know behind closed doors how those interactions truly went, and you might not ever really find out, But it was clear that another change was needed. And Shad Khan left that door open, by the way, in that press conference right after the season, that, hey, if some coach comes in here with a different plan or an idea, I'm all ears, basically. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say that. That's my line. But and then he stood up to it. So I don't who knows if Liam Coen even presented that? Hey, I got a guy and we got a thing. Here's the system we should do. However, if that's it changed pretty quickly after that. So you can put those in whatever order you want, but it feels like that's the order of operations. And bang, all of a sudden Cohen's listening again. And I'm guessing the number probably went up too. This is professional football. It is about the money. And I'm going to guess Mr. Khan decided, hey, you know what? Let's pony up a little bit here and go get our guy.
He actually released a statement. Let me read a bit of the statement from Jags owner Shad Khan. Actually, I'll just read the first line. To repeat my message earlier this week, I am deeply committed to building a winner here in Jacksonville. Key, is this this is a positive step?
Do you know what? I was following the head coach tracker, and 2 names that were coming up a lot that made me really excited. One was Ben Johnson, one was Liam Coen. And Ben Johnson didn't work out. That's all right. Let's see how he gets on at the Bears. That'll be fun. Liam Coen, I think that is exciting. I loved what he did with Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, and I think bringing that energy, that experience to Jacksonville, I think it would be fun to talk about positive things over the next few podcasts rather than what we've been talking about the rest of last season. So yeah, dude, I'm excited. One thing about the head coach tracker though, JP, two questions for you. Your interview for head coach didn't come up on the head coach tracker. And why did you turn the position down this time?
Yeah, that's sources say that I was not even close to the mix. So that's how that goes. I don't need to
Too
be close to
beardy,
that.
they said. Too beardy.
You're right. Yeah, we're gonna fix that.
And that's
Clearly.
why you got rid of it. You're like, next time, I'm not
You
going to
got
have
to
that
adjust.
issue.
I'm not gonna once bitten, twice shy, right?
Yeah.
So, but the whole list of guys that you saw come in and talk the first wave, there was like half offense and half defensive mindset, and of course, on the defensive guys, you're like, okay, who's your offensive coordinator going to be? Because as we just talked about, the first question is the quarterback. So, I'm sure they had to go through some of that. And now they've got the offensive guy in, and let's see what his answer is of who's going to call plays. I'm guessing that he probably wants to call plays, but he's also never managed a team on the field. So for a first-time head coach, you're going to have a lot of new things that surprise you and are like, wait a minute, this is a whole lot more than I bargained for in terms of time away from football, away from the X's and O's, doing media obligations. Meetings with players. I mean, all these things you really haven't had to do before as a coordinator or a play caller. Now, all of a sudden, you're managing the whole operation. So there'll be probably a little bit of a learning curve with that, but I'm sure he's been told what to expect from some folks who have kind of helped him along.
Jay, you're a fan, right? You put in our WhatsApp group that you like this, right?
What, Liam Coen?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I think that, back to what I said earlier, Shad Khan said that the offense, the team was predictable and he wanted to change that up. And at the end of the day, we are now several years, as you brought up earlier, into Trevor Lawrence's career. And we can all sit here and say that he is a talented player. And we agree that he's a talented player. But we can all sit here and also say that we feel like he hasn't shown his full potential on the field. So what do you do in that situation? We've spoken about this at length. You need to make sure that the situation is as perfect as it could possibly be to get the talent out from Trevor Lawrence. And if that means getting somebody like Liam Coen in, then I think that's a great thing. The only thing that I would say, JP, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier on, is that he's had a year calling plays. He spent 2 stints in Kentucky. He was in with the Rams as well. Are we going all in on a small amount of tape?
It's a great question, right? I mean, there's not a lot of that's all these young guys are hot and upcoming coaches. Well, there's a reason they don't have a lot of film out there now. He's had a lot of time in LA under McVay. I mean, he was the assistant wide receivers coach in 18 and 19, and they had some really good receivers those years that he was helping coach. And then in 20 was the assistant quarterback coach, got a little more involved. That year, went to Kentucky, as you mentioned, in 21 as the OC and the quarterback coach. So I'm sure he was calling plays there. And then back with the Rams, where you're in the room with McVay every day as the offensive coordinator in 22. And it's a tough year because, the quarterback got hurt, and that was his first run with Baker. Okay, Baker Mayfield's here. Okay, cool. And then they got connected. Then went back to Kentucky. It's just how it goes sometimes. Like, you don't know that there's no direct line on these careers in the NFL. And, well, there's going to be one for a little while now. If all things go well, he's sticking around here for a number of years. And if you keep winning, you'll be here as long as you want to be here as the head coach.
You mentioned as well that there'll be a learning curve, which is expected. You wonder whether he'll try and preempt that a little bit by getting some experienced coordinators in, some experienced coaches, people that have been there, have done it before. Have you heard anything about that? Can we expect some, experience?
That would make sense to surround himself with experience, right?
Exactly.
It would make sense, you think? However, I still feel I'm going to guess from the outside looking in, and still not talking to him in person as of this conversation. He's going to be calling the play and be the guy that's
for sure.
Running the offense, right? So, okay, that's one thing. Now, to your point about the defense, it was kind of the feel that Doug Peterson, I think, had, or the idea that Doug Peterson had. Hey, let's get an experienced coordinator on this side, so I don't have to go over there as much. It didn't work out like that, but that was kind of the idea last season. So, what does that mean moving ahead? I think that's probably a good call on the defensive side. You need somebody who's done it before. You can just kind of, hey, go to your side of the building. We'll see you on Sunday, basically, and see you on the practice field. Now, he's, again, like we're talking about the learning curve, it's in game, it's decision making, it's 2-minute drives. When are we calling timeout? When am I challenging? Who's telling me to challenge? Like all these things as a first-time head coach, it's just a few. It's a long list. You got to figure out the operation of that. So this is the time he's going to get his staff in, and they're going to figure all those things out. And it might take a little bit of time in game. And this preseason will be huge for that in games that truly don't matter in the wins and losses. How do we operate? Who's on the headset with me? What are we doing? Who's telling me to call timeout? What if we're on defense and I'm in an offensive meeting? Like, okay, how do I balance my time on the sideline? So all that's in play, I think. So that's why this preseason, this offseason is so huge for a new head coach.
I just think the whole thing is exciting. I think it's exciting that he managed to take, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on, the Bucs from, a middling offense to one of the best in the league. Baker Mayfield as well, who himself, he's had issues. He's bounced around the league. Let's remember, he's bounced around. He was with the Panthers briefly. He was with the Rams, with the Bucs. He's been able to prove himself as a good starting option, and that's what we want to see with the Jags, don't we?
It also helps that you have a Hall of Fame receiver out there throwing to too, and Mike Evans, right? I mean, he had some parts.
I thought you were talking about Brian Thomas Jr. there for a second. I was like, all right, someone's going early.
I'm not comparing them yet. However, you need a dynamic playmaking guy or two or three around you, and he had some of that in Tampa, right? And okay, when you have that going with the play calling to go with it, that's the combination.
He's the guy that really, Trevor Lawrence hopefully is going to be, pleased with the appointment, but Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy that's going to be like, okay, this might work out quite well for me.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Think about this offense last year and what was going on. And he's still they didn't throw him the football the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And he still goes over 1,000.
The numbers, considering that fact, are super impressive.
So when you have actual a functioning offense with that guy healthy and playing well, look out. I think there's big things ahead for Brian Thomas.
In fact, while we're talking about Brian Thomas Jr., not that we speak about him quite a lot, let's be fair. Whilst we're talking about him, he's had a bit of recognition over the last couple of weeks, hasn't he, JP?
Yeah, got the nod as the first alternate to go to the Pro Bowl in Orlando, the Pro Bowl games. There's not an actual game anymore. It's flag football and things. However, he was the first alternate. Zay Flowers was injured, so unable to play for Baltimore. So you could argue he should have been one of the top four anyway, statistically, but it's tough for a rookie to crack that, especially in Jacksonville. Zay Flowers and the Ravens are out there all the time, all these things. So I wasn't as upset with that as a lot of people might have been, that he was out to begin with. But being the first alternate, there was a pretty good idea he was going to get in anyway. And good for him. It's a fantastic rookie season. And with that, he's a finalist for the AP NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he'll get it. Jaden Daniels probably is going to get it, in my opinion. It's been a hell of a year for the quarterback for Washington. But, you can't argue with the numbers that Brian put up. It's a great honor, and I guess he'll be at the NFL honors when they award that, is my guess. So good for him to be in the spotlight and get at least some recognition for what was a really tough year around Jacksonville. So good for him, man. It's only going to go up from here, I hope, for Brian Thomas Jr.
I feel like we should rename the podcast, Key. I think it needs to be the Brian Thomas Jr. Appreciation podcast or something like that.
It's basically that, isn't it?
So we're all in. We're all in on Liam Coen, Key.
I like it. I'm also one thing, right? When Shad Khan let Doug Peterson go, in his statement, he was talking about looking for a head coach that shared his huge ambition for the Jaguars. And I have to say, when you hear Liam Coen talk and when you see what he did last year with the Bucs offense, I think that word ambition comes to mind for me, and I like this match. Yes.
Liam Coen, we've spoken a little bit about the coaches as well. We haven't really spoken much about the GM search. JP, is there anything that you can tell us about that?
There's really not much right now. I think they want to get through from what I understand, they want to get through the introduction of Coen.
Do you think Liam Coen has any input on this, JP?
I bet he'll be in the conversation, is my guess. But I think they're going to take their time too on this. I don't think this is a, 2 days and done. They still have to go through Rooney Rule process with general managers as well. So there's going to be all that in play. But they're going to get the best candidates they can. They're going to talk to them all, give them all a fair shot like they did this time, and then go from there. But I don't think they're going to rush to get a guy in here by Wednesday, and run the general manager role. It's going to be a little bit of a process again, and they'll make sure they have the right guy and the right combination of people in the building to get that done. So nothing as of right now. I think they want to keep this as clear as they can early in the week for Liam Coen and lift him up as the new head coach, and he's the guy that's running the show, and get him established.
They won't want to wait too long, though, will they, JP? Because the draft isn't too long away.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. It's clock's ticking. We're less than a month away from the combine, right? So now the scouting staff's in place. The interim GM is still here, and Ethan Waugh, like he's running all those things. Like that, the only person that's gone is Balky, right? Everybody else is still in place doing their job. So in theory, whoever comes in as a general manager, which Ethan Waugh will probably be in that mix as well because he's the interim, he'll probably get a conversation at least. Whoever gets that role will have a staff in place already and get through the draft. That's how different it is in the scouting and the coaching clocks in the cycles, right? Most of the scouts' contracts are through the draft, and then there's a whole huge change in scouts and personnel people after the draft, usually every year in the NFL. Whereas coaches are like right after the season, So that you want the staff in place, that the people who have the institutional knowledge of what's going on in college football and have already scouted players for multiple years and have a database and all these things going on. You need that. You can't just whack everybody at one time, because that you might have the data in front of you, but you don't know what it means, right? So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of the cycle in the NFL with the scouts. You have a staff in place. Work is still going on. Scouting is still happening. They're going to go to pro days with or without a GM, and at some point they'll have a GM to run the show.
JP, thank you for joining us. I just want to end on this line from Liam Coen. We'll hear from him shortly. As head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I will hire first-class coaching staff, establish a distinctive and effective brand of football on both sides of the ball. That's what gets me the most excited. Nice. I think that's what gets me the most excited.
That's big. An identity. Big. This team did not have an identity last year. That's exactly what that means. So whatever that identity is, just have one and stick to it. I like it.
JP, wonderful as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Thanks, Kee. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, so we'll hear from new Jags head coach Liam Coen shortly. But over the last few weeks, since the last episode, actually, Kee, no surprises. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been announced to play in London in the 2025 season. In fact, there are another couple of teams as well. The Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets. We'll find out the opponents in the next few months. But if you are already thinking about it, first of all, don't blame you. It's already on my mind, to be honest. We actually have an exclusive Jacksonville Jaguars London hospitality package as well to mention to you. You can enjoy a champagne reception, street food style buffet stations. Make another noise. Okay, too far. And unlimited.
Don't ask me to do it, Jay. That's what you're gonna get.
And unlimited beer, wine, and soft drinks for 3 hours pre-game and during halftime.
How are you going to enjoy the game if you're drinking unlimited beers and wines for the 3 hours beforehand?
I'm sure you can.
That's the challenge.
Reserved for 4 or more guests. Private tables come with halftime drinks and snacks, a match day program, and post-game savories. The ARC Hospitality Package also offers exclusive NFL entertainment and live music. Register now at SeatUnique.com and experience the ultimate luxury game day. That's SeatUnique.com. Key. It's not bad, is it, to already be thinking about the Jags coming back to London?
No, and now that you're mentioning that package, that sounds pretty good as well. No, dude, I mean, as soon as we leave Wembley, I'm thinking about the next year at Wembley again. Yeah.
Key, I hate to finish the podcast on a sour note,
Then don't.
You know what?
Goodbye,
I know,
Jay.
I know. Yeah. It's been a few weeks since our last podcast,
I know,
and
I've
we
missed
did
you terribly.
we did confirm. All right, we did confirm that at the end of the last podcast that I did win the prediction standings, and therefore I would be being sent something that belonged to you, a bit of Jags merchandise. Now, I could have gone with the rare bespoke Jags artwork that you've had made, but I actually would quite like you to still be a friend. So instead, I chose the Trevor Lawrence bobblehead. I've been checking the post.
Yeah.
I've been scrutinizing the guy, the postman, who,
Yeah.
by the way, coincidentally, wears a Jags hat. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It looks an awful lot like me.
Yeah. There's nothing. I haven't got anything, mate. I am still waiting for this. And I don't want this to be a situation, and I feel like this could be, where it comes August 31st.
So,
just before the start of the new season.
At the end of the last podcast, I sought some legal advice.
Oh, shush.
That was a verbal agreement, which is not legally binding. And if you know, dude, as my nan always used to say, I blame the postal service. I haven't sent it, Jay. I will send it this week. It takes me more than a couple of weeks to say goodbye to Mini Trev / Julia. We've had a long time together. It's a long, painful goodbye, and one day he, she, they will be yours. Be patient.
Are you I just imagine that you're just sleeping next to it every single night to say goodbye.
I mean, I was before I agreed to part with it, but yes.
All right. So what you're saying is by the end of February, by the next podcast, it will be in my possession.
All right. Yes.
Okay. That is a legal binding agreement, by the way.
Okay. I tell you what, I will send in the post. I'll send a legal contract in the post to make it official. There you go.
I will not be sending it back. Kee, look forward to speaking to you again in a few weeks' time. It's been a dramatic last few weeks, actually. I don't know what the next few weeks has got to hold for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
GM, hopefully. Let's see.
Well, exactly. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Speak to you in the next few weeks. We'll be back at the end of February. Teal Talk, in partnership with Gallagher, has been a Shooting Shark production for Jacksonville Jaguars, UK and Ireland. Go subscribe on your podcast, on YouTube as well. We'll see you in a few weeks' time.